Hello, hello, friends. This is Becky with Becky Budgets. It is that time of the month where I'm going to go ahead and close out my September budget. And just know that I'm going to go ahead and split the September closeout, and then I'm going to do our quarterly update on another video because September is the end of quarter 3 of 2023. So let's go ahead and get started. My husband and I did make some changes to our original budget. So my income came in for $4,256. My husband's came in for $2,974. And then we did not get any income from my dad to help with rent. So when I add those two values together, and let me just make sure that this is in frame, that gives us a total of $7,230, which from our budgeted, it's about $130 more than we budgeted. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this value down here where it says total income. So 7,230. Moving down to our bills or fixed expenses. Rent this month, or for September, came in for $2,464. Our subscriptions came in for $103. I did not have to pay Audible in the month of September. Excel, which is our gas and electric, came in for $195, and that is creeping up because it was a little higher this month in October. T-Mobile was its set 100. Xfinity was 172, so no change there. Allstate, which is our car insurance, was $169. That has not changed either. I mean, it didn't change from our budgeted, but it is higher because we had our insurance renew, and so it went up to about $183. Peloton was $48, and luckily we did not have any unbudgeted expenses. So when I add our fixed expenses together, we get a total of, and that did not come up with what I had. So let me do that one more time. That is more like it. So it comes to a total of $3,251. Moving over to our variable expenses, at the very end of the month, we were able to squeak in all of our variable expense totals. So food got $400, gas got $250, pets, hubby, and me got $100 each. Eating out got $75, and miscellaneous got $50. So that equals a total of $1,075. Moving down to debt, our minimums this month were $269, so I was off by $100. The Upstart loan, it was the last payment on our first loan. So we ended up paying less than the $940. So our total for that was $1,504. The city ended up getting $298 because it got its minimum plus $298 to make it $355. And then I did tag on the slate, which was not put into account at the beginning, and that ended up getting $201 in the snowball, because that's our second snowball after the city. So when I add those values together, that gives us a value of $2,272. And thank you to all of you who reminded me right after I filmed my last video that I did not fill in the sinking funds, which skewed our results, but we will fix it now. So 52-week number 1 for Christmas did get $106. The 52-week number 2 for moving got $106. And then our sinking funds ended up getting $420. If you remember, I ended up not filling medical for the last 2 weeks in September, so that skewed that result a little bit. When I add those 3 values together, we end up with $632. In order to get our total expenses, what we do is we add the numbers that are next to the pink box. So we've got 632 for our savings, plus the 2272 for our debt, the 1075 for our variable expenses, and the 3251 for our fixed expenses. And that gives us a value, and I'm going to make sure that's in frame. That gives us a value of $7,230, which means that we 7,230 minus 7,230 give us a 0. So we did stay on budget for the month of September, which is always good. Now let's go into the breakdown for the month. I'm going to go ahead and just grab a highlighter to point things out. And what I do is I fill out the closeout in the Budget Mom Budget by Paycheck workbook, which I find to be very informative for me. So under total debts, our Upstart loan is currently at 0, but we did pay $792.37. So I did have to account for that on here. And currently we are paying down. We're moving with 4 debts into the next quarter. Our total debt balance is $39,789.94. We paid $1,771 with 41 cents in minimal payments, plus $544 that went towards our snowball. It was more than I thought, to be honest with you all, which means that we made a total debt payment of $2,315 with 41 cents. Now, when we take a look at last month and this month, which is this total here, our debt progress went down by $1,896.95. But we paid $2,315.41 towards debt, which tells me that we had $418 with 46 cents that went into interest. And that's something I always like to keep an eye on. One thing that made me pretty happy is that earlier on in the year, the amount of interest that we were paying out was $800 to $900 a month. So that's come down almost half, which just gives me more ignition to keep on the journey. This month, from our total overall debt, we were able to pay down 1.36%, which is typical from month to month. And then overall, for our overall progress, we ended up we're down 71.6% from that total debt that we started with in April of 2022. Moving on to our net tracker, and I'm so sorry about the glare. It has a lot to do with the time of day and that the sun and all that, so I apologize. So hopefully you can see. Our monthly net worth tracker, I calculated yesterday, which was September 30th after close, okay? Last month, our net worth was $109 with $109,285 with 74 cents. I did decide to make some changes in our assets. So previously I had our cars on here. Given that they need a lot of work, I don't consider them assets at the moment, so I remove them, which means that about $11,700 came off just with that. Now this month, all three of our retirement funds did come down. My current retirement fund is through TIAA-CREF, and it went down like $2,000. My Fidelity went down about $1,000, and my husband's went down about $2,000. So that plays into us being at a smaller net worth, but I'm still happy with where we are. So our total net worth for the month of September is $92,846.23. From August to September, we went down $16,439.51, which means that we moved 15.4% into the negative from August to September, but I'm completely okay with that. Moving on to our monthly budget, and I do apologize as my eraser was smudged, but here's where I track our income along with all of the expenses that we had expected to go out. Our inflow for this month, because we did not get any income from my dad, was $7,230.32. That being said, I split down everything that went out this month, and I take a look at overages. So our credit cards, we paid $499 more for, which is always good, even though it is red on the sheet. Our snowball was expected to get 61. It got 544, which means we put $483 more into our snowball, which is always good. And then our interest, which I was finally able to calculate, was $418.46. What made me cringe a little bit is that equated to 5.79% of our total inflow, which means that $5.79 was kind of thrown away in interest. So that is definitely a good thing to keep in line, especially when you're on this journey to keep going. Taking a look at our monthly debt and savings breakdown, we were paid $2,315.41 into our debt, which is 32%. That's right on with keeping it at about 30%. And then our savings, we had $632 go into our savings, which was 8.74%. What I did notice is that those 2% that we have here was skewed off of the 2% that would have been here to keep it at about 10%. But I am okay with that. When I take a look at our debt categories, I look at the percentages. So our 2 Upstart loans always take the highest amount. And then I take a look at what's next. So in this case, our 3rd and 4th accounts, which are the ones that we are targeting for Snowball, they took about 15 plus 14, let's say it was about 30% of this amount, which makes me very happy. Moving over to our savings, our 2 52-week challenges took about 16.7% each. And then our sinking funds, which was down about $100 because of our medical being adjusted, ended up getting 66.5% of our total savings. Last but not least is the monthly comparison. This one was a little over exaggerated because last month we ended up getting my husband's student loan forgiven, which means, and we ended up getting a check. So we ended up bringing in technically $78,920.17 less than last month. But I use that for accounting purposes and not for reality this month, because that amount was very inflated last month. Now, taking a look at the comparison between August and September, these are the categories that I like to take a look at because they're the ones that can change from month to month. I focus on the red numbers on the right. This information came right off of the monthly breakdown. So I just pulled the one from August and then I wrote in the one for September. In rent, we ended up paying $4.51 more. That is going to change by a couple hundred within the next month or two as our lease renewed. Our Excel went up by $81.61, which makes sense because it has been very hot here in Colorado and our air conditioner has been running. I expect it, or I already know that in October it was higher than that, but I'm expecting it to start kind of tapering down now that it's getting colder. The news did announce that Colorado's going to go into sweater weather during this week, so that's exciting. Credit cards, we had $365 go towards credit cards last month, and then $868 went towards credit cards this month. I included the extra payments that went towards the snowball for this month. So that means that we paid about $503 more than last month in credit cards, but that's always good. Personal loans, we did pay $148.39 less because it was a lower amount on our first loan. I expect this to go down by about $900 for October, so stay tuned for that. And then last but not least is food. August was a 5-week month for us and September was a 4-week month for us. So that accounts for those $100 that we paid less in for the month of September. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining me for our monthly closeout. I hope that you find this interesting, educational, and it motivates you to kind of keep going. This is what really gives me that ignition to just want to stay on track. And I'm so very happy that we've been able to stay on this program for so long. Well, friends, I hope that you have a great week ahead. Since this is a monthly closeout, that it's a wonderful month ahead. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye, friends.